The Song of Loss by William Blake. Africa, Asia. Africa, I will sing you a song of loss, the eternal prophet. He sung it to 4 harps at the tables of eternity in heart-formed Africa. Urizen faded, Ariston shuddered, and thus the song began. Adam stood in the Garden of Eden, and Noah on the mountains of Ararat. They saw Urizen give his laws to the nations by the hands of the children of Los. Adam shuddered, Noah faded. Black grew the sunny African, when Rintrah gave abstract philosophy to Brahma in the east. Night spoke to the cloud. Lo, these human-formed spirits in smiling hypocrisy war against one another. So let them war on, slaves to the eternal elements. Noah shrunk beneath the waters. Abram fled in fires from Chaldea. Moses beheld upon Mount Sinai forms of dark delusion. To Trismegistus, Palamabron gave an abstract law, to Pythagoras, Socrates, and Plato. Times rolled on o'er all the sons of Har. Time after time Orc on Mount Atlas howled, chained down with the chain of jealousy. Then Uthun hovered over Judah and Jerusalem, and Jesus heard her voice, a man of sorrows. He received a gospel from wretched Theotormon. The human race began to wither, for the healthy built secluded places, fearing the joys of love, and the diseased only propagated. So Antimon called up Luther from her valleys of delight, and to Mahomet a loose Bible gave. But in the north to Odin Sotha gave a code of war, because of Diralada, thinking to reclaim his joy. These were the churches, hospitals, castles, palaces, like nets and gins and traps to catch the joys of eternity, and all the rest a desert, till like a dream eternity was obliterated and erased. Since that dread day when Har and Heva fled, because their brethren and sisters lived in war and lust, and as they fled they shrunk into 2 narrow doleful forms, creeping in reptile flesh upon the bosom of the ground, and all the vast of nature shrunk before their shrunken eyes. Thus the terrible race of Los and Enitharmon gave laws and religions to the sons of Har, binding them more and more to earth, closing and restraining, till a philosophy of 5 senses was complete. Urizen wept and gave it into the hands of Newton and Locke. Clouds roll heavy upon the Alps round Rousseau and Voltaire, and on the mountains of Lebanon round the deceased gods of Asia, and on the deserts of Africa round the fallen angels. The guardian prince of Albion burns in his nightly tent. Asia, the kings of Asia heard the howl rise up from Europe, and each ran out from his web, from his ancient woven den. For the darkness of Asia was startled at the thick flaming thought-creating fires of Orc. And the kings of Asia stood and cried in bitterness of soul, Shall not the king call for famine from the heath, nor the priest for pestilence from the fen? To restrain, to dismay, to thin, the inhabitants of mountain and plain, in the day of full-feeding prosperity and the night of delicious songs. Shall not the counsellor throw his curb of poverty on the laborious, to fix the price of labour, to invent allegoric riches? And the privy admonishers of men call for fires in the city, for heaps of smoking ruins in the night of prosperity and wantonness, to turn man from his path, to restrain the child from the womb, to cut off the bread from the city, that the remnant may learn to obey, that the pride of the heart may fail, that the lust of the eyes may be quenched, that the delicate ear in its infancy may be dulled, and the nostrils closed up, to teach mortal worms the path that leads from the gates of the grave. Urizen heard them cry, and his shuddering, waving wings went enormous above the red flames, drawing clouds of despair through the heavens of Europe as he went. And his books of brass, iron, and gold melted over the land as he flew, heavy waving, howling, weeping. And he stood over Judea, and stayed in his ancient place, and stretched his clouds over Jerusalem. For Adam, a mouldering skeleton, lay bleached on the Garden of Eden, and Noah as white as snow on the mountains of Ararat. Then the thunders of Urizen bellowed aloud from his woven darkness above. Orc raging in European darkness arose like a pillar of fire above the Alps, like a serpent of fiery flame. The sullen earth shrunk. Forth from the dead dust rattling, bones to bones join, shaking, convulsed, the shivering clay breathes, and all flesh naked stands. Fathers and friends, mothers and infants, kings and warriors, the grave shrieks with delight and shakes her hollow womb and clasps the solid stem. Her bosom swells with wild desire, and milk and blood and glandus wine in rivers rush and shout and dance on mountain, dale and plain. The song of loss is ended. Urizen wept.